Welcome back to Boring Reviews.
Boring land.
Oh, just kidding.
Blasphemer!
All
Hello,
right.
Boring Review Nation!
Kind of pointless.
We know all things. Hello, Boring Review Nation! Gabe!
Nick.
Welcome back to Boring Reviews, and we are here today to review episode 6. Count them, 6. All right, guys. We are super excited. I tell you what, we're getting through this a lot quicker than we have some other reviews. And part of it is because this show, it has so many cliffhangers. You know, Paatal Lok is one of those shows that is designed to make you want to binge watch, and we've had to fight to try not to binge watch because of course we want to keep it fresh. But it's like, oh dude, are you ready to record today? If not, let me know so that we can watch it, and either I'm out of town or you're out of town, we got stuff to do, but we are trying to get it as quickly as possible, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And it's especially this time of the summer, the summer for us teachers, it's starting to rapidly end. This usually is a time where Comic-Con is around the corner and we got a lot of American content coming our way. Supposedly they're still going to do it online. I'm not sure how it's going to work. So we're just flying through these episodes because we know there's going to be some kind of distraction in the near future, and we want to finish this, get the reviews to you out as soon as quickly. They're not coming out every single day because we just have too many things that we want to do in addition to it, but we appreciate you sticking through 6 episodes with us. And here we go with this review of this episode. I've got to say, this episode, in my opinion, is the darkest in many different ways. There was certain parts that were very hard to watch. There were certain parts where I like, okay, this is probably why a lot of people were upset with this show.
Right.
And I don't want to give really any attention besides just saying the whole backstory of Mary was interesting, learning that character, but also absolutely heartbreaking and very hard to watch. I don't really want to touch any on that. For anyone that's seen this episode, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Disgusting. So I'm not even gonna talk about it. We're just gonna skip over that. But I mean, that was very hard for me to get through. Other than that, this episode dives deeper as it should in this show. I love so much about it. The relationship between the father and son. We get more of that. There's so many things I love. I'm just going to be quiet and let you get us started with what you want to talk about.
Well, like you mentioned, and I think that in our last video, we talked a little bit about when we're enjoying this show. When we started watching this show, it was really because we recognized one of the actors and we enjoyed his performance in Mizupar. Okay, in Mizupar, he plays Compounder. In this show, he plays Taiji. Hopefully I said that right. Taiji. In any event, it was like, we didn't know the backstory or the history, and we still don't. Again, as Americans, we don't have any context to, what it's trying to say politically or about religions. So we're just really reviewing it for the sake of just the show. You know what I'm saying? Not making any kind of stance one way or the other. With that being said, though, this episode, we finally understood like why some people were upset. Because like you said, they had that whole scene on the train when the one guy's pulled off and he gets beat down or whatnot. And again, we don't know if it's true or not. It's just, whatever, creative, what do you call that? Creative expression. You know what I mean? That's what the director chose to do. He took some liberties there, creative liberties.
I will say real quick on that note, I personally, and I miss a lot of stuff watching, understand some of the culture aspects or just whatever ways of life. I do not understand that scene. I don't understand why that scene was in there. I'm maybe it builds up later on to why certain things were happening and why maybe it's connected. The whole religious aspect to Sanjeev, but I did not understand that scene. Again, I can see why people were frustrated with that part because, I'm assuming those were Hindus being portrayed. Hindus are not a violent religion, so I don't understand that scene whatsoever. Maybe it plays a part later on. The guy's screaming, it's just chicken. It's just chicken. It looks like beef. It's not beef, please. And then the son, I mean, that was hard to watch as well. There was a whole lot of parts of this that were hard to watch.
Right.
But I love Chaudhary's storyline with his son, and I love with his partner and with his wife too. I mean, all of that was really good.
And let's talk about Chaudhary, okay? In the last episode, we talked about how his son got himself into trouble, right? And his son did not respect him, whatever, and didn't tell him where he got the gun from. So now the son goes back. He's healed from his injury, and as he's out and about, the guy with the motorcycle whose gun he stole picks him up.
Gangster.
The mini gangster, baby, mini me, I want to call him, because he's trying to play gangster. He's no gangster. We're already seeing who was the real gangsters, because we found out that wasn't even his gun. He took it from another gangster or whatnot.
I wanted to scare somebody with it.
Exactly, and that dude, you could tell, is a gangster. He was smacking everybody up. He, cup checked them and said, listen, you get my gun back in 2 days or we're going to have problems in front of all his boys. It was a pretty cool scene.
Which is funny because he's not much different than Chaudhary's son. He's
right.
Wow, a gun. I want to take it with me to scare somebody, or I want to be powerful with it.
Right.
He's not any different. You can tell that he's not a real gangster by the way he acts. And it was nice to see him get, a little bit of his comeuppance from his boss and other things that happened later on in the episode.
Right. So he picks up Chaudhary's son and then takes him out to like some bridge or whatever. He's like, I know you're the one that got the gun. That's where you got that injury on your head or whatever. Where's the gun? I need it, whatever. The other two gangsters are like, yo, we need this gun. It's going to be easier for you. So they beat him down. He gets, a busted lip. He goes home. Chaudhary comes home and his wife is like, you see, blaming it on him. Why would I give a kid back a firearm who just pulled it out of school and almost killed someone? Luckily, he didn't know how to work the safety or whatever happened. His wife, to me, is so, like, in her mind, forget about, and we're going to talk about the wife a little bit with the brother and the whole soda thing, but she is so unrealistic. She gets on my nerves, honestly. Like, why? How could you blame this on him? When he's the one that took the firearm to school? If anything, by taking away this firearm, I'm prohibiting him doing something dumb with it. Okay, he got beat down. You were going to say something? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I love that you focus on the wife because we haven't talked about her at all. The character's name is Renu. She's played by Gul Panag, who is, I was like, man, this girl looks so familiar. Not only is she beautiful, but she's a really good actress. She was the girl in Family Man that our main character meets up with, who's also a police officer or an agent or whatever. So she has a much smaller role, but she just has like you had said in the last review, she has a different perspective and a different way about going about raising kids. She wants to be more gentle and loving or whatever, or give her son whatever, because, he's our beautiful boy or whatever. But you're right. It's not what's best for him. Chaudhary knows better, but as annoying as she is, the actress does a really, really good job.
Oh, definitely. The fact that she's annoying me, she's doing a really, really good job. She's playing that role. So Chaudhary finally loses his cool. And again, he's so upset because he knows the danger of what could happen to this gun or whatnot, that he puts his hands on his son. Like, listen, you're going to tell me where this gun came from now. Who did this to you? The wife tries to intervene. He puts his hands on his wife, which again, I don't subscribe to, but I understand in that context, like, look, you're trying to get me to give a child a weapon when he already almost ruined his life and went to jail for doing something dumb. That's not going to happen. And while you're trying to be a protective mother, what you're doing right now is only enabling him to do these things, and it's going to end up bad for him. So finally he tells him who it was, and that's when you see who Chaudhary is. He's a gangster. He's a cop, but he's a gangster. He said, all right, cool.
I love it.
Takes the gun out of the safe. Again, responsible gun owner, right? He takes the gun out of the safe, puts it with him, grabs him, says, let's go. His wife's like, oh, he's got a fever. He'll be fine. Let's go. Like, I'm going to show you what a real gangster is. So he takes his kid with him, and bro, he proceeds to go.
He's just slapping that little mini gangster.
Yeah,
I love it.
Goes the guy, mini gangster.
Folds like a tent. He's like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's not even my gun. It's not even my gun. It's not your gun. Whose gun is it? Oh, it's so-and-so. Like, and Chaudhary recognized the name. He says, all right, we're going over there. Dude, this is the most gangster thing, too. They go there in a mini cab or a petty cab, whatever you want to call it. All right, because he don't even got a car. So he goes with the mini gangster with his son, and Chaudhary, all of them get out at the mini gangster's house. And in the next scene, he's beating down the gangster's henchmen, smacking them around. Bro, he's like old school cop, all right? He let everybody have it. So Chaudhary goes to the main gangster's house, and he says, listen, as far as I'm concerned, this situation is over. Here's your gun. but if you or any of your cronies ever comes around my kid again, I will end you. Just gangster with it. And the old dude's like, the old guy he pretends to be a gangster. He's like, I'll have you suspended for this or whatever. That's the best he can say. He's like, too late. Somebody beat you to it. So now he's letting them know, like, that was my favorite line.
He hands a gangster a gun. I'm sure it wasn't loaded. A gun, and then walks away like a boss. I mean, so many bad things could happen. But yes, you see all this pent-up frustration of him not getting any respect from his job. This guy knows how to handle himself. He's so frustrated with everything. And going back to the part where he slaps his wife, you can tell after he did that he did not want to do that. He regretted that. He's got this guy's got no sleep. He's running on fumes, running on alcohol. I mean, he is just, I love that scene. I have thought about that scene of him going back and being that superhero and, sticking it to these gangsters so many times. That's an awesome, beautiful scene. And you see the look in his son's eyes like, oh, my dad's not a loser.
Right.
I better never cross this guy. This guy went to the gangster and just slapped him around.
Instant respect, all right? Instant respect. And then after, like you said, he hands the gangster the gun. He gets his son, whatever. They go in to get in the pedicab. Then the other mini gangster tries to get in there with him. He's like, where do you think you're going? Get out of here. And I better never see you around he just was a boss, all right? He owned that scene. And I loved it because there's always a dog, right? Everybody wants to be a dog until a bigger dog comes around. Everybody barks, but then when the real wolves come around, and that's what you saw that scene, the mini gangster bullied his son until the mini gangster got bullied by the real gangster. Well, the real gangster got bullied by Chaudhary, all right? Everybody, there's always a bigger guy, all right? There's always a bigger fish out there. And that's what you saw in that scene. And the funniest thing was this guy who was acting like he was a gangster earlier, he had all the jewelry, he's with his guys. The best thing he could come up with was, I'll have you suspended for this. And he's like, somebody already beat you to it. You know what I'm saying? That was gangster.
Well, and one of the coolest parts is when he gets back with his son. What does his wife do? She returns the favor and slaps him as if for her way of saying, don't ever do that again. I'm not going to be a little punk that you're going to slap around. I really like that scene. That was kind of like, tit for tat. You might have been not thinking straight, but now I'm not going to be thinking straight. And they kind of had that look with each other, and they both accepted it. I thought that was awesome. That's usually not the way things go. I'm not promoting domestic violence in any way, but for this show, for the realm of fictional world, that was an interesting and cool little scene right there. So, I'm assuming that the son, for the most part, we're not going to have too much more invested with that storyline. If we do, then we'll see. I think that was sewn up so we can focus more on this investigation. Right. You have talk about hard to watch moments. This might not have been my favorite episode because of all the hard to watch moments. You have the whole scene with Dolly, which is Sanjeev's wife, and she knows that he's stepping out on her. She has, issues. She admits to those issues. She's, medicating with some alcohol, and she's getting depressed. And we
forgot to cover that in the last story when we reviewed episode 5, that she goes to a bar and almost hooks up with some random young dude or whatever. And she couldn't go through with it, but it's because she knows that he's stepping out on her or whatnot. But yeah, you really feel bad. And I don't know about you, but to me, does it not seem like they've made Sanjeev, even though we got a guy who's got 45 bodies on him? We've got this alcoholic drunk cop. Isn't like the most distasteful character in this entire series becomes Sanjeev, in my opinion.
Yeah, once again, Perukar, I think his name was in Sacred Games. Once again, I can't stand this guy. He's driving me crazy. I liked him in the first few episodes. But Dolly, the actress that plays Dolly, is Swastika Mukherjee. She really puts on a performance in this episode. She gets very vulnerable. She strips down metaphorically. She's standing in front of that mirror, and she's touching herself, not in a sexual way or inappropriate way, but she's just so down on herself. You can see her thoughts coming out of her head while she's looking at herself, where she's saying, am I not worth anything? Have I lost my beauty? And she's a beautiful actress, but she is so insecure at that moment. And so she tries to get a quick fix and try to, eliminate that thought by trying to kiss and be romantic with her husband, which is nothing wrong with that whatsoever. but he's done with her. He wants nothing to do with it. He's like, not now, not now. He almost seems detested by it, and it makes you feel even more for this character. But her performance in that scene was absolutely flawless. I didn't even notice Sanjeev was in the scene until he's saying no, 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 because she did such a great job. But again, hard to watch. I'm not sure if that was meant for the meaning for the showrunners in this episode to really get raw and get dark. But as much as I've praised them in the previous episodes, I don't think we had to go that far in this episode in certain aspects. But that scene with Dolly, what was very powerful in acting perspectives and direction and whatnot. But it was just hard to watch.
Bro, there was a vulnerability about her at that moment where, without saying words, you could tell that she was just feeling less of a woman. She was just feeling so belittled. And then you find out that they don't even have children. And she says, did I make a mistake?
40 years old.
You just feel so bad for her. And I think that what the showrunners are doing, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but they're creating this narrative so that when Sanjeev takes a fall, and we've been saying from the beginning, this guy is walking on a tightrope, all right? He's dangerously playing with fire. He's being awful cavalier with this ISI situation. But when it's revealed that he is a bad guy, then we accept it and we're okay with it, okay? Because, in the beginning, they try to make him out to be this hero. He's this reporter, a beacon of truth. And, they're trying to push him out because of his age and trying to push him out because he's not a relevant story anymore. And now you've really grown in the last few episodes to detest this guy. So, again, I think it's intentional. But she probably, in my opinion, has had, other than Taiji, Taija, she's had the strongest performance in this entire series. Like that one scene was amazing. You're absolutely right.
Well, you got Chaudhary, he's a pretty good actor too in this.
Yeah, no, he is. But like that was a scene that I was just like, wow. It was just like you said,
but I'm
very
telling
hard
you,
to watch.
She's unhinged, and what we've seen in the past with other series where you have someone who's dealing with some mental issues will say I can see her not only not surviving this season, but also see her doing something very drastic to make a point against her husband, to where she is probably going to put herself in a very dangerous situation, to where we thought the son was going to do that at the end of the episode and in the end of the season. I think she's going to. She needs some help. She needs some love and she needs some attention. She's not getting any of that. It's not just going to go away. It's going to be an issue. So it'll be interesting to see what are they building up with her character.
Interesting. One of the things, and we might as well not necessarily go into detail, but why was this episode so hard to watch? All the situations we talked about, the one we kind of glossed over a little bit, and now we understand the backstory of Mary. So remember when we talked about that story, like, this doesn't even make any sense. Really, you were in this car and you don't know what they were doing or whatnot? Well, apparently this is what she does. But now we understand her backstory. The most important part of that is we understand that her story was true. She did not know what was going on. She really didn't know the other people in the car. Specifically, she had no a connection to this assassination. She was just placed in that car as her normal function of being in cars and being something of camouflage, I would say, so that when police officers or intelligence units drive by, hey, if there's a woman in a car, more than likely it's not any kind of either terrorist or militant group or anything like that. So now we found out so far that, and we've already seen that the story is starting to unravel, but we found out that she also really didn't have anything to do with it, where she is an unwilling participant, if that's the best way to put it. She was an unwilling participant. With that being said, what did we say in the beginning? Chaudhary is a great detective. He hasn't been promoted for a slew of reasons, but he knows his stuff. And he goes back and investigates. And he said, okay, let's find out where this flat was at. And they were trying to get the guy to commit to a date. He was like, well, what date were here? Were they here? When did they get this room? June 12th, was it? You sure it was the 12th or whatever? He goes back, does the investigating. He even looks in the room as he's in there. And we're talking about the guy's office. And we're like, there's CCTV camera up there. If they were here on the 12th, it's going to be on CCTV camera. camera, he finds out the guy himself wasn't even in town on the 12th, so there was no way he could have met him there. Chaudhary is the man, bro. This was one of probably the episode where you're like, holy cow, he's the man. You know what I mean?
Well, and the worst thing that his dumb superior could have done was suspend him, because this guy does not care. He's going to be willing to break into places to prove the case, to prove that he was right, to prove that he should have been on in the whole long run. And if he was still, under their control in the police force, he probably wanted to make those drastic efforts. So, at the same time, you got Ansari, who is seeing Chaudhary's side. Even though he wants to go forward with his career, he's seeing Chaudhary's side, and he's doing some investigation on old case files in the police department. His superior catches him. He sees the file he has, so he knows that he's not controlling Ansari. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to his partner. More likely, they're both going to be down and out and have to go rogue. It'll be really interesting to find out about that. But you have all these things leading up to, once again, another cliffhanger at the end, to where he's looking at the picture and he's saying, I know that guy. And they're like, what? Who is that guy? He says his name. We don't know who that is. That's Master G. This guy, I didn't know he was a police officer before. I thought he was just a teacher. And it brings a whole lot of things to light. It brings, not to light, I shouldn't say that, but it brings a whole lot of things bubbling to the surface, to where we are starting to understand connections here and there, and how this Master G, this guy has more to do than just being this PE teacher who was just there, who happened to know Vishal, who happened to teach him about shot put or whatever it was.
Vishal, let's talk a little bit about Vishal. So they're all in prison, all four of them: Kabir M, Mary, Tope, and Kishal, right? So first of all, they should have never put Mary there, because regardless, whether transgender, whether you just put her in a vulnerable position, you know what I mean, with all these dudes around her, and you can see just by the looks they're giving her that it's not going to end well for her in there, okay? And they end up cutting her hair so that, I guess, to make her fit in with the rest of the population, but you could tell she identifies as a female, so she's terrified of being in there. And you can just tell who belongs in that environment, meaning obviously Vishal belongs in that environment. He can handle himself. Obviously Tope belongs in that environment. And the two that don't, Kabir M, he got cut right away. All right, my man's leaking. Hopefully he survived it. Who knows? We'll find out later on. And then Mary, who looks like she's going to be assaulted in there. Those two don't belong. So again, you can see that the story that they're giving from the original, that all four of these people were hired to do this terrorist plot, is not true. They're not assassins. Maybe the other two were, but definitely Mary wasn't involved. And Kabir M, like you said, he just stole a car and was told to drive somewhere. So that's where we're at here.
Yeah, so those are our thoughts for episode 6. Tough one to watch, but we get a lot of interesting information. Let us know what your thoughts are on this episode. Let us know what other shows, since we're winding down, maybe not similar to this or similar to this, but shows that you want us to check out. Let us know as we continue to build our audience with our TV reviews. We hope that if you do like this, you'll give us a thumbs up, and you'll be able to, share this with your friends and whatnot, and get Born Reviews out there. Check out some other series reviews. We have reviews for Family Man, Mirzapur, and Sacred Games on this channel. Check those out. But until next time,
we know all things.